The F-duct, as it was swiftly dubbed, owing to the letter in the sponsor next to the chassis inlet,
dampening out tyre bouncing frequencies throughout corners.
Structure flexing to create lower drag, which is something the FIA first began cracking down.
Verstappen, far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees it coming. It's a late lunge by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race. The crowd go absolutely wild. He has gone from last all the way to first. What a drive this has been from Lewis Hamilton this weekend.
Formula One has always rewarded the team clever enough to find what everyone else missed, until innovation starts making the competition look pointless. Throughout the sport's history, engineers have repeatedly discovered ideas so effective that rivals stopped asking how they worked and started asking one question: how quickly can we ban it? These are the inventions that became too fast for Formula One. Number 5. The hole nobody could explain.
It's basically an inverse hovercraft. So unlike a conventional race.
In 2010, McLaren's new car arrived with a strange, unexplained hole near the cockpit. Nobody outside the team knew what it did. It fed the F-duct, officially Project RW80, nicknamed for the letter in the Vodafone logo sitting right beside it. When a driver covered the hole with a hand or knee, airflow was rerouted through internal channels to stall the rear wing, killing its drag on the straights and handing the car extra top speed exactly when it mattered most. It wasn't more horsepower, it was simply less air getting in the way. The FIA inspected it, found no rule it broke, and let it race. That decision changed the entire paddock. Within months, Sauber, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull and Williams had all built their own versions, each routed differently through the chassis. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner raised a different concern entirely. "It is a clever piece of engineering, and hats off to the guys who invented it," he said. "But some of the solutions this weekend look a bit marginal when you see drivers driving with fingertips and no hands." The FIA banned it for 2011, citing exactly that. Drivers steering one-handed at high speed was a safety risk nobody wanted to normalise. First came imitation, then came regulation. Aerodynamic drag is the resistance a car's shape creates as it pushes through the air. And at 300 kilometres an hour, even a small reduction in drag translates into real extra speed on a straight. The F-duct didn't add power to the engine. It simply let the car cut through less air for a few crucial seconds. The F-duct disappeared. Its idea didn't. The following year, the FIA introduced DRS, the drag reduction system still used today, as a safer, button-activated way of achieving the same basic idea the F-duct had proven could work. Number 4. The steering wheel that moved. February 2020, pre-season testing in Barcelona. Spotters watched Lewis Hamilton's steering wheel slide backward and forward in his hands like a trombone and had no idea what they were looking at.
What a year it could be for him. 2 enormous records he is chasing.
Easy to compete with on track. He's competed against him some.
You got to commit to it.
Nothing was broken. Mercedes had simply redefined what a steering wheel could do. The mechanism was called dual-axis steering, DAS. Pulling the wheel toward the driver straightened the front wheels for the straights, reducing drag and evening out tyre temperature. Pushing it back returned the wheels to their normal cornering angle. Red Bull protested immediately, certain the system broke the rules governing suspension geometry. The stewards in Austria disagreed, ruling in writing that because the mechanism was genuinely part of the steering assembly and controlled directly by the driver, it satisfied the regulations as written. Mercedes technical director James Allison later admitted the 2020 version had been relatively crude, engineers' shorthand for knowing they had more to give. It looked like something had gone badly wrong. In reality, Mercedes had found another loophole. Mercedes won every race they needed to that year. The FIA didn't wait for a repeat performance. For 2021, new regulations required wheel realignment to be defined purely by rotation, explicitly outlawing anything that relied on sliding, pushing, or pulling. Formula One banned it after a single season. The FIA doesn't only ban technology for being dangerous, sometimes it bans technology simply because one team has worked out something nobody else has, and an uneven field hurts the show more than the cleverness of the idea helps it. Formula One wants engineers to keep innovating, just not so far ahead of everyone else that the championship stops being a contest. Number 3. The team that almost didn't exist.
All of a sudden, their F1 team became a liability instead of an asset. It had to go. This is where Brawn GP enters the picture, and in their first ever season, they did the impossible.
Brawn GP began the 2009 season as a team that had nearly ceased to exist months earlier, built from the wreckage of Honda's withdrawal from the sport. It also began the season as the fastest car on the grid.
Winner again, Brawn GP are winners on their first race appearance, and not only that, it's a 1-2 finish. Button from Barrichello, the smiles are on Ross Brawn.
The 2009 regulations had deliberately shrunk the diffuser, the rear section of the floor that helps generate downforce, to reduce overall grip across the sport. Buried in the wording, though, was a gap nobody else had noticed. The rules didn't explicitly forbid small apertures where the floor met the diffuser. Brawn's engineers, alongside Toyota and Williams, who'd separately reached the same idea, built channels through those gaps that fared a second, stacked diffuser sitting above the legal one, effectively doubling the usable volume without breaking a single written measurement. Brawn aerodynamicist John Owen later put it plainly. They'd asked the FIA's technical delegate Charlie Whiting directly about the concept beforehand, showed him simple sketches, and were told he saw no reason it wouldn't be legal. Rival teams protested furiously at the very first race. The FIA upheld the design as legal anyway. Jenson Button won 6 of the first 7 races of the season. By then, the championship already felt like it was slipping away from everyone else. Sometimes championships are won before the rest of the grid even understands what it's looking at. The loophole stayed open through 2010, while everyone else caught up. It was closed for good in 2011. Number 2. The weight that broke the rulebook. In late 2005, Renault quietly bolted something strange into the nose of its car. A 10-kilogram weight, suspended on springs inside a sealed tube, free to move slightly whenever the chassis pitched over a bump or curb.
Race leader still going strong. Fernando Alonso on lap 7.
If Renault wanted to win this race, they've gone about it the wrong way. They've set this car up more for qualifying.
Renault engineer Tim Wright later explained the principle simply. It was nothing particularly trick, but the drivers were over the moon with it. If the car is stable going through a corner, it just gave them so much more confidence. Fernando Alonso felt it immediately. The car stayed flatter under braking, the front wing worked closer to its ideal height for longer, and tyres that should have skipped over bumps stayed planted instead. Alonso won the title in 2005. Renault won it again, alongside the Constructors' Championship in 2006. Rival teams quietly built their own versions all season, never quite extracting the same gain Renault had. Then, days before the German Grand Prix in July 2006, the FIA issued a technical bulletin declaring the device illegal, a movable aerodynamic part, in the regulator's reading, despite sitting entirely inside the chassis with no direct contact with the airflow at all.
At the Hungaroring on lap 3 between the two championship rivals, battling over 4th place. Alonso's going round the outside of him. This is the first time these two have taken each other on all season on the racetrack.
the Hockenheim stewards actually ruled the system permissible that weekend. The FIA appealed against its own officials anyway, and a month later, its Court of Appeal overturned them. Renault's technical director Pat Simons estimated the loss at around 0.2 of a second per lap. Small on paper, decisive at the sharp end of a title fight. Renault held on to win both championships regardless. It looked ordinary. It quietly helped win 2 world championships. A tuned mass damper works on the same basic physics used to stop tall buildings swaying in high wind. A weight that moves in counter rhythm to whatever it's attached to, absorbing energy that would otherwise destabilize the structure. In a Formula One car, that meant smoothing out the violent vertical movement created by curbs, bumps, and heavy braking, keeping the aerodynamic surfaces working at their intended height for longer. The FIA's objection was never really about the weight itself. It was about exactly how much that stability was quietly worth in lap time. Sometimes the smallest movement creates the biggest advantage. Number 1, the wing that lied.
And I think Max Verstappen got a better start than Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc's got that 8-metre advantage into turn 1. Charles Leclerc ahead of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz.
October 2024, Baku. Trackside cameras caught McLaren's rear wing doing something it shouldn't visibly be doing, closing almost imperceptibly the moment the car hit top speed on the long straight, then opening back up for the next corner.
Make moves quickly. Lando Norris trying to undo the damage of qualifying in his first Q1 exit. He's got Yuki Tsunoda off the racing line, can't pass him.
Rivals nicknamed it the Mini DRS. A wing built with just enough engineered flex meant it could pass the FIA's static load tests sitting still in the garage, yet behave completely differently once real aerodynamic force pushed against it at 300 kilometres an hour. Cutting drag exactly where a true DRS system would, without ever needing the driver to press a button. McLaren agreed to quietly drop the design for the rest of the season. It hadn't broken a single written test. It had simply found the gap between what the rules measured and what actually happened on track. Mercedes driver George Russell didn't bother being diplomatic about it. "It's not going to change anything from our side," he said, when a Titan test was eventually introduced months later. "I don't know who the TD was introduced for, but I'm pretty confident it wasn't us or Red Bull." Ferrari principal Fred Vasseur was less measured about how long it had taken. "There was frustration because at one stage we were waiting for the decision of the FIA," he said. "We were convinced that it would go for the no-go, and it went for the go. So probably we lost 1 or 2 months.
Structure flexing to create lower drag, which is something the FIA first began cracking down on in the middle of the 2021 season, but it looked like something designed to achieve a similar effect.
The FIA tightened the test twice more through 2025, first cutting allowed wing movement from 15mm to 10, then from 2mm of slot gap, flex down to 0.5. Each time, within weeks, teams found new ways to pass the new test, while the wing still behaved exactly as it had before. It passed every test, just not the one happening at 300 kilometers an hour. And as 2026's new regulations approach, the same argument keeps resurfacing in a different shape, on a different part of the car, every single season. Why Formula One keeps banning Brilliance.
The F-duct, as it was swiftly dubbed,
dampening out tyre bouncing frequencies,
structure flexing to create lower drag.
What a year it could be for him. 2 enormous records he is chasing.
An inverse hovercraft. So unlike a conventional race.
Every generation thinks it has found something completely new. Every generation discovers the cycle is exactly the same. One engineer notices what everyone else overlooked. The car dominates. Rivals complain. The rulebook changes. Formula One has never really been only a competition between drivers. It has always, just as much, been a competition between engineers, fought in wind tunnels and regulation documents long before a single car reaches the grid. The greatest inventions in this sport's history don't always win championships. Sometimes they win something even bigger, a brand new rule. Sometimes their greatest victory isn't a championship, it's forcing Formula One to rewrite its own rules. Formula One has always claimed to reward innovation, and it does. Right up until one team becomes too clever for the rest of the grid to bear. Because every banned invention leaves behind the same unresolved question. Should the sport protect the freedom to engineer something brilliant, or protect the closeness of the racing itself? That argument has existed for more than 20 years. It probably never ends. Because somewhere, inside a Formula One factory, someone is already sketching the next invention. That will be completely legal, right up until the day everyone else wants it banned. Which banned Formula One invention was the most brilliant? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this documentary, please consider subscribing. There are many more incredible stories from Formula One history still to come.